How do you prepare for things that you don't see coming? And we as leaders, we have this vision of where we want to take our organization, where we want our organization to go. We see years into the future, but it's rare you think about what are all the things that could stand in the way of achieving said vision on our way to getting there, right? It's not going to be a straight line path. It never is. There's going to be setbacks, things we can't anticipate. When you see somebody and they just have a terrible day, like you just said, they got some really bad news, and you have to think, you know what, maybe into the future, I'm going to have a terrible day and I'm going to get some bad news. And I don't know when, and I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's inevitable. It's inevitable that it will happen. It will probably happen this quarter or this year. At some point, things are going to happen. I mean, you say, well, Mike, that's a very pessimistic, attitude to have, but like look back across your life. Were you surprised by anything last year? Were you surprised by anything last month or last quarter? Like, of course, things that happened that you did not expect, that you did not anticipate, and then you had to navigate those somehow. So the thing that I do, which is kind of sadistic, but I'm constantly thinking about what are all the vulnerabilities in the business or in the organization, right? So I'll just answer from a business standpoint. I constantly think about how would I put Crisp out of business? Like, what are all the ways, what are all the different vulnerabilities that, like, all the kind of things that could hurt us, could take advantage of us, like could just negatively impact us. I think, what if this happens? What impact is AI going to have? What impact does this election have? What impact did inflation have? You look at the job market, and the labor pool, what could that have? What impact could remote work have? I think about 1,000 things like this all the time, and I journal and I write it out and I say, well, here's what I would do, okay? So I like brainstorm scenarios that could be based on any possible threat that I can even anticipate or envision. Because I sometimes put myself in the position of, let's say, me as the competitor. Let's say I'm cast out of Crisp. Like they say, like, get out of here. We don't need you anymore. And I have to build a competing business. How would I win? I may not have the resources. I may not have the brand. It's like what would I do? So I think about that all the time. And you start to basically create contingency scenarios of like, okay, well, if this would happen, then I would do this. And if this would happen, then I would do this. And as you do this more and more and more, you run yourself through, again, I do this every single day. As you get through like 100 scenarios, 200 scenarios, 300 scenarios, it's less about the individual scenario. Because again, this is a question of like, well, how do you approach things you can't anticipate? Because the nature of something you can't anticipate, like a black swan event, is that you don't ever see it coming. Like you didn't see the pandemic coming, right? And who knows if that'll be the last pandemic. It doesn't matter the level of like preparation that you would do. Like let's say you just did not see that coming. But as you go through more and more of these scenarios, you start to realize that everything is figure-outable. I would figure it out. And that gives you tremendous confidence. And it also kind of strengthens this muscle in your mind where you're constantly thinking about all the things that could go wrong. And I believe that we prevented a lot of those things because of this way of thinking.